You're watching the Sensesphere channel, and now some chilled discussion after the week's angst, with the Doctor Who Detox Hour, or two.
Do you know, when you've been ill, the last thing you want to hear is those pesky kookaburras. I'm back. Way back. I had the space plague. I think you know, space plague, and I was sent down to Voga. Trouble is, I got myself entangled in local politics and stuff about rockets. Anyway, I'm back hopefully on form. Life goes on. And we've been busy this week with various shows. So welcome back. Happy New Year. I know you're not supposed to be saying it well into New Year, but it's my first chance proper. So Happy New Year to all detoxers. Hope it was great for you. A bit of a break back. I hope you didn't get the space plague like I did. Now, you know, we have one mission on the Detox Hour, and that's to detoxify your Doctor Who week. Every week we fail, but we try our best and have a laugh along the way. But please do spread the word. You know, we're still trying to kind of grow as a channel. It's a brand new channel. It's a one-man band, really. So please repost, spread the word to one person. That would be wonderful. And just check you've subscribed. Thank you. Usual contact addresses are all there. X and Gmail tend to work perfectly for me. But look at the tasty content we've just been doing since my space plague. You'll see there, last week we had the State of Decay review. We've been doing Talking Television. We did one on New Year's Eve. Then I got the lurgy. And then we did another one this Monday. We're going to try and do them on Mondays. And you can see there, has television forgotten how to scare audiences? Is television killing its audience? And tonight you'll see me and Rachel, the Queen of the Woke, doing our first pilot show of That Was the Week That Was Woke. So do look out for that. And oh my God, there's more. Next week on Tuesday, we've got a new show. It's a politics show, and we're going to do it the day after the presidential inauguration. It's the Spin Sphere. So there's an awful lot of stuff going on. I don't know. Has the space plague recharged me up? I don't know. Anyway, I've got my friends here, and so let's get them back. We've got oh, here he is. Are you still watching Peladon, Dan?
I got through Peladon. I've been tuning through. I rewatched Legopolis because it's so good. And what else? I've watched Armageddon Factor. So yeah,
Armageddon Factor. That tends to be
Tom Baker.
It's a bit Marmite, isn't it? Some people don't like Armageddon Factor so much, do they?
Well, that's one of the reasons why I went to watch it, because I know there was a bit of heat before Christmas about the Armageddon Factor in one of the chats. So I thought I'll go back and see what I think.
Okie doke. Well, this is our Peladon plunderer here, Dan. Good to see you, and Happy New Year, of course, even though it's the 17th. And our other fellow friend, Sirens of Audio, Dwayne, how are you?
G'day, fellas. It's good to be back. I've missed you.
Well, as you know, you've both been asking me, and I've been going, sorry, I don't quite think I'm up to it. I didn't have a voice. That didn't help. Although a few of my panelists would say that's perfect. That's just what you want.
You know, Dan has not only been watching the Peladon stories, but off air he was also telling me that Big Finish is canon. So it's a great new year so far for Dan. Good on you, mate.
Oh yeah, Dan is really he's hot to trot on winding me up. I tell you, I'll be pressing that toxic button all the time.
Yeah, and Dwayne, you were telling me that you think the image of the Fendel is one of the greatest Tom Baker episodes ever.
Yep, and then you woke up.
Yeah. And Dan said he had a Geordie doll in his bedroom.
Hail the
I mean, it was
Walking
all there.
Master.
It was all happening. Anyway, I'm still being naughty because, as you can see, just as we started, we have had Christmas and we have had snow in various parts. That's a very strange snow Dalek, I have to say.
The Dalek's balls are very soggy there.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like a very good snow Dalek until it starts to melt. And then, Houston, we have a problem. God knows what the neighbours thought. When Anyway.
I wish I looked that good when I started to melt, but anyway.
So there you go on that one. And of course, I love sometimes just the humor of, mixing Doctor Who with ordinary life. I mean, John Pertwee did. He always talked about the Yeti on the Lewin Tooten Beck, didn't he? And two Yetis at the bus stop. Ah, lovely, lovely, lovely. Now, as you know, we go straight into it, don't we? I normally start with our ups and downs of the week. Now, because I haven't been on for a few weeks, you've got a free rein to, there's maybe a fair bit. So here we go. Ups and downs of the Time Rota, week and week and week. Yes, so starters for 10, Dan.
Oh, look, I've got to say I really enjoyed sitting down having another rewatch of Legopolis. I actually kept going right into Castrovalva, which I'm not usually
No.
not that excited about Peter Davison era.
Really? God, you diss Peladon, you diss Peter Davison. What the heck? I mean,
look, I'll give it. It does ramp up towards the end of season 19.
What about the Visitation?
Yeah, it's okay.
What?
It's okay. No, I like it. It's not. I don't know. There's something about the Peter Davison era. It's just not my. Apart from Five Doctors and Resurrection of the Daleks.
Oh, here we go. Here we go.
Planet of Fire.
This doesn't make sense to me. Oh, I struggle with the Peter Davison era. Apart from Frontiers, Resurrection, Case of Androzani, Earthshock, and you list half the. Yeah, okay.
You drop all the Snake Dance and all that stuff. Kinder.
Oh, I'm reviewing that next week. I'm not inviting you. So you've been enjoying. You see, obviously, part of my Doctor Who viewing is now to do linked with my reviews. So it's Kinder for next week for a recording. We did State of Decay. We did Terror of the Autons recently. So it's been a bit mixed up. But yeah, I mean, for example, I didn't know Nicholas Courtney when they were filming Terror of the Autons was suffering from depression, which was a damn shame. I didn't realize that they changed some of the shots so that you got him at the side and from the back sometimes just to help him out and to reduce some of his dialogue. Didn't know that. Which shows you how respectful Barry Letts and everybody was to protect him. But Dwayne, ups and downs of your Doctor Who period?
Well, I've been having quite a busy time on my podcast, getting a few episodes out. We a couple of weeks ago able to release our initial interview with Matthew Waterhouse, which was fantastic to be able to share that. It's going great guns on the YouTube channel.
Yeah, it is. Yeah,
a couple of other interviews too. We had Nicholas Briggs on a couple of times, talking about some of his recent things too. So that's been a lot of fun. And I guess a down is also an up in a way, in that, we just got the news yesterday that Christopher Benjamin had passed away. And so that's a bit sad, because he's, in some very, very classic stories in Doctor Who, both the classic and the new series. But an up that I could think of as a result of that was that I had the privilege of talking to him once for the podcast as well. So I felt really privileged and grateful that I was able to spend a bit of time with him.
Yeah, I have to say, I don't normally on our channel because unfortunately Doctor Who's gone for 61 years, so sometimes deaths and various things going on. You could be doing shows just on that, but yeah, Christopher Benjamin. I mean, he was in Doctor Who a fair few times. Then he did the Big Finish as well, and so he's obviously embraced it really well. And when I was looking back, God, he's been in everything: Avengers, Danger Man, Inspector Morse. You just Dempsey and Makepeace. He's been in everything, and a fair sprinkling in the movies too.
He was in The Prisoner too, so he'll pop up in all those 60s classics, So yeah.
Yeah. And when it came to Doctor Who, he was Sir Keith Gold in Inferno. He was Colonel Hugh Kirbishley in The Unicorn and the Wasp. And of course, we had him as good old Henry Gordon Jago in The Talons of Wen-Chian. And great characterization, great dialogue, great Robert Holmes script, but of course, well executed by both of them, actually. And yeah, when it's a warm character like that, a lovable rogue almost, because he was a showman, wasn't he? But he's all bluster.
Yeah, the whole ensemble was fantastic in that story. But yeah, what a great character though.
Yeah. So
and for those who don't know, you mentioned Big Finish, but they actually did before Trevor Baxter passed away. They'd done 13 seasons. So 13 years they were doing Jago and Lightfoot. It was incredible amount of output. It is my favorite Big Finish spin-off. It's the best one they've ever done, as far as I'm concerned.
So how did he? Obviously, in your Sirens of Audio interview, when you actually talked to him, how I'm talking about his characters, but how did he come across? I've never met him.
He came across as a little bit similar to Jago in some ways. Not quite as gregarious as Jago, but he was kind of a little bit bumbling too. But I guess that was because he was quite old at the time and was struggling a little bit with the technology that we were trying to talk to him with. But yeah, he was a lovely guy, and he loved talking. His great love was the theatre. He loved working on the theatre.
Yeah.
And he did mention that he was surprised that when he was doing leading roles in the theatre. So when he got into TV, he found himself cast in all these bit parts all over the place, which kept him going for many years. And then he went back into theatre after a while and was at the RSC for a good while. So he's had a very consistent career. He's one of those actors that sort of not well known by everybody, but had consistent work all through the decades.
Wow, I know. Yeah. Just go on Wikipedia for a second, and the list of programs. I mean, honestly, it is a hell of a list. Now, Boomer Doug isn't on today, and look at him. He's already starting a fight. Cybermat Strikes is spot on. Davison is hit and miss. Boomer Doug, you get your backside back on this show, and you explain yourself.
Get on here with us, Doug. I miss you too.
Yeah. Oh, he's
got good taste.
Yeah, that's it. Boomer Doug's not coming on if he's going to side with Dan. That's not happening.
Chat's siding with me. I think I've uncovered something here.
Oh, uncovered something. I tell you what, you both have got out the wrong side of the bed. Raymond Williams, Davison was What? What's going on here? Raymond Williams. I do show opinions that obviously I don't agree with. So anyway, here we go. Davison was miscast, just misdirected. JNT
I think he means wasn't.
Yeah. JNT told him to play it serious and cut out what he considered the over-the-top humor. Davison at the time I know he was in Hold the Fort and Sink or Swim. My problem as a teenager when he was given the role was I just thought he's on telly a lot already, so I kind of know him in lots of different things, and All Creatures had just been on. And when it was Tom Baker, obviously I'd never seen him in anything, plus I was only 4. So it was interesting to have this concept that the next Doctor was somebody you'd seen him a lot on TV. I suppose Patrick Troughton was the same, because all those 60s people will have seen him on loads of things, and William Hartnell. So just as a kid, I was kind of resistant to it, but that soon faded because he had those lovely little subtleties that Dan hasn't found yet. and he's still
Maybe
looking.
the next 30 years.
Yeah. Too subtle for you. No. Doctor Who Before and Beyond was a very complimentary about our output at the moment. And up for me is listening to some 12th Doctor audiobooks I haven't listened to before. They've been great so far. I haven't got into any of that, honestly. I struggle with
It not being canon.
time, I suppose. Raymond, Davidson was used to theatre and to productions doing what the director wanted. He admitted that he'd been older with more confidence, he would have spoken up. I know, that's the youth thing, isn't it, of the time. So, yes, and just before we do move on, Peter Davison in a very peculiar practice. I was just about to go to university, and just like Grange Hill scared me stiff for secondary school, a very peculiar practice didn't scare me for uni. It got me quite excited, but in another way, nuns around the bins, talking about sexual problems at the doctors. I'm not.
I personally really enjoyed Peter Davison and really grew to appreciate him after seeing him at home with the Braithwaites.
That was fantastic too.
Yeah, he spends the whole time just running around tearing his hair out.
Yeah,
very entertaining.
Now, colorization has been on trend really with the war games just before Christmas. But did you see that people were tweeting out that they've done colorization tests on Tomb of the Cybermen? And that's the one I thought they should have done, because they wouldn't have had to have edited it.
To be honest, that's the one I wouldn't want to see edited.
No,
I don't want to see Tomb of the Cybermen edited. And I bet that's why they didn't go near it.
It's only 4 episodes, so they wouldn't have to touch it, would they really?
Then again, all the people that have probably
might edit it down to 25 minutes.
Yeah, it's for the new audiences that can't cope. They can go to the cinema and watch a 3-hour movie.
I want to see someone do a 90-minute edit of the entire RTDC era.
Lots of drama, reset button, back to the beginning again, reset button. But I think you could do it in about 10 seconds. So anyway, there you go. Cyber Controller, that vivid blue collar of Troughton. And I mean, it's going to look very silvery because it's a Tomb of the Cybermen. But there you go. There's another kind of shot for you. I just like color with these black and white ones. I don't think it's sacrilege. I just think it brings them. You were saying earlier, just before we came on, that with the war games about the shine of the vehicles and that, Dan, weren't you? That it's added
the
more
texture. Yeah, the reflections and things that you didn't know were there.
I mean, keep in mind too, with the war games, some of the footage that they had was new footage that was found that was more pristine than the actual official copy that they had. So that was inserted and colorized. So that's how we got some of that crispy looking stuff in the war games.
Look at the ambition of those sets though, for what they had at the time. It's like the design that went into all of that just looks cool.
And I don't think, and that's why I really wanted color. I argued for color with the Daleks when they were doing it, because I just thought, yes, I know sometimes because of our 4K TVs and everything that you can see when it's a certain backdrop, and that doesn't matter. We're all beyond that. But the thing is, you can see sometimes the lavishness of certain things. I think the color brings a vibrancy to it, and it makes it look, I think, higher budget. I always think it does, makes it look bigger. I know some people who saw it in black and white like the original version. I get that, I do. But I want Doctor Who to be seen by as many people as possible. And I think if you're talking about new audiences, colour seems to be a marker for some people, that if it's in colour, they'll watch it. If it's in black and white, not. Remember all the Thunderbirds and Stingray? I remember Trumpton. The big argument was they had some longevity. I mean, they were blooming good. But because they were actually filmed in color, so therefore they were ahead of the curve, so they could be marketable. And I just think Doctor Who needs to be a bit more marketable in that way.
I just enjoy it, like when to me, it's not like you've got. This is more Doctor Who in my mind. Like I don't look at this as a replacement or whatever. I just see it as another different version, an opportunity for a special edition or whatever. It's just another new thing that you can enjoy.
Well, it's certainly getting people talking about this because, you know, again, it's like Marmite of various things, isn't it? So I say Marmite, it's an Aussie one, Vegemite, I need to say.
Could I tell you something about the black and white experience for us in Australia, though? Because it's for me, from a purely nostalgic point of view, when I watched the Pertwee era, it was in black and white. So even though we've got all Pertwee in color now, I still found that some of those episodes, to me, really grabbed me as black and white, because a lot of the episodes, they only had black and white at the time, and they were broadcasting them in Australia. So it's once they were colorized, what was happening then? Oh, I was on a different channel then, but back in the 80s, yeah, they were broadcasting the black and white. So there is something very nostalgic about black and white for me.
So just clarify for me. So I remember seeing Pertwee episodes on UK TV in the 90s, and that was probably the first time I properly remember seeing episodes like Inferno and things like that replayed in black and white on UK TV. But they definitely didn't the ABC didn't have the color masters still when they replayed it in the 80s, because I could swear in my mind's eye I saw the lava flow in Inferno in color as
Inferno
a very
was always
young
in
kid.
color.
So they never
Inferno
lost
was
that
in color.
Okay.
No, it was the Silurians and Ambassadors of Death that we had in black and white. And then Terror of the Autons was always black and white. So was Claws of Axos, Mind of Evil. Colony in Space was always in color, and then the Demons was black and white. So they would chop and change, whatever they had, they would play.
Right.
So, but a lot of them were black and white, yeah. But there were definitely a few. Inferno was one of the color ones.
Well, there you go. I'm up for this. I am up for colorization of Tomb of the Cybermen. I think it would look lavish, because, as you know, it's well made even at the beginning. I mean, the music, the music soundtrack makes it sound cinematic. The Crowry looks bigger and better than some of the Crowries we've seen in Doctor Who. It just makes it look as though it's almost movie-esque. I'm up for it. I'm there.
Yeah, me too. I'd love it too if they did something with the cyber controllers helmet. So we've got the brain image in there, but if they did something special effects wise that had it maybe pulsating like it was alive, that would look so good.
Yes. I mean, oh yeah, I know. Gosh,
they could put regeneration energy on him and turn him into the Cybermaster.
Well, let's this might be the first moment when I cause oh no, not a toxic effect. Yes, here we go. I have been ill for 2 weeks or so I haven't even been able to stream and say this. Other streams have said it and gone to bed by now, but you know, Tom Baker getting the MBE, Tom Baker 50 years. We actually did do a show about 50 years from Robot, but yeah, Tom Baker getting an MBE. I always find it fascinating that some people get these awards so late in their life. You know, some people, like, you know, David Beckham or somebody gets something 5 minutes after they've done something, and then somebody else has to wait another 40 odd years. It fascinates me, and sometimes it worries me, because every time you see somebody very old get an award, you think, have they been tipped the nod that they need to do it? You know, Anyway, it was great to see Tom Baker get that, because you know, he's so famous. So he was up there with Sarah Lancashire and others getting top awards, and it was just lovely to see. But it got me thinking about Tom Baker, which is, if you do look at his era as Doctor Who, let's just play the game for a moment. Now, if I just put this on the big screen, if you go on various websites, people will tell you their best stories of Tom Baker and their worst ones. So this is the best ones, and I'm going to ask you, lads, what you think are the best Doctor Who stories with Tom Baker, just for a bit of a laugh, and then we'll look at some of the worst ones and just see if there's any agreement. Now, you can see there, just while you're thinking, lads, Deadly Assassin, he's around there. You've got City of Death, Genesis, Weng Chian with Christopher Benjamin in. Genesis, Zygons, yeah, they're up there. Robots of Death gets a few calls out. Fan Rock. What are you thinking, Dwayne, regarding if you had to pick your top 5 Tom Bakers?
Well, Talons of Wang Chiang's always been my favourite. You can't really go past the Robots of Death. Those two together are an amazing 10 episodes of Doctor Who. Absolutely incredible. Terror of the
Horror of
Zygons I
Fenrir.
always found was the scariest Tom Baker story. So for me, I think that's probably my top 3. But if I had to round off a top 5, I'd definitely go The Creature from the Pit and Nightmare of Eden. There you go.
Hold on.
I'm actually being serious too. If I'm going to go to something that's nostalgic for me and something that makes me laugh and something I think is very clever, those two stories, a lot of people diss them. Like Dan, for instance, would diss those for sure.
Yeah,
but he's just wrong, like everyone else.
No, I like them, but you've clearly been boiling up Paul bloody Mandrels and making Fraxowen.
I know.
Don't tell anyone.
But no, I kind of do agree with you, Duane, on those, because I do have a kind of love of those stories, and I've used it in certain subscription posters. The Creature from the Pit, it has a lovely, gentle humour, and it's a rollicking story. I think Lady Adrasta is amazing. I mean, and I did audio record it first, so when she loses control, and there's that brilliant cliffhanger when they're bringing that kind of shield, the speaking device, and she's take it away, and K9 point at the wall, and it's all building, and absolutely love it. And actually, it's genius. I love the genius of Doctor Who sci-fi when it's spinning a web around all that sort of stuff. Love it, love it, love it. And Nightmare of Eden is just clever, actually, isn't it? It's a clever idea. Drug smuggling via the miniscope or whatever they called it then. They're all the same, aren't they? It's like Carnival of Monsters. So so what are you thinking, Dan, then, of your top 5? You can't pick Peladon because it was Pertwee.
I find it easy to do the bottom 5, and even that's a hard slog because you end up with ones that you still go, but they're still good. So I just can't do it. For me, yeah, look, I agree with Talons of Wang Chiang, Robots of Death. I'll probably throw in Horror of Fang Rock. See, every time I do this exercise, someone mentions another one, and I go, "Oh yeah, actually, that one is."
It is hard because Terror of the Zygons, I seem to always think, for some reason, that just did something to me. It was the start of a season. I was of a certain age. A brilliant monster. Love the spaceship and all the rest of it, and the Brigadiers in it.
Best music.
Yeah, exactly. Seeds of Doom. Yeah, that was a real thriller. So there's 2 down. Then yes, I've got to say Genesis, and then I'm starting to hit problems because I've got Deadly Assassin to go, Horror of Fan Rock, Robots of Death, and now I'm over 5. I see what you mean, Dan. It's hard.
As good as his first 3 seasons are, every one of his seasons has a different feel and flavor to it that is unique in and of itself, which makes it of its time, I guess. And just, really enjoyable to watch. I mean, I was playing around with some of the Key to Time episodes with the heat bearing down, and I mean, they really didn't put a foot wrong in, when you look at it, in the bigger picture.
And then there's interesting ones like Michael Q. I mean, I'm listing as many as I can, but Revenge of the Cybermen. And again, it's one of those. I wouldn't have it in the top 5, but I know a lot of people diss it, and yet I really do just enjoy that story. And I don't mind the plasticine whirling planet at the end that's on this kind of spit roast and out of control. I don't mind. It has good actors in it. It's got the Cybermen for the first time in yonks. It's great. Now, so that was the top 5 according to people online. It's just fascinating to see what Doctor Who fans think.
Full circle.
Yeah, he is the worst. And I'm going to ask you the same again. What are your worst ones there? I mean, Dan's going to be furious now. Duane, sorry, because look at that one. Creature from the Pit up there. Oh, Nightmare of Eden is somebody else's list. So Creature from the Pit's listed a few times here. So
all the E-Space stories.
Well, look at that one, The Deadly Assassin. Controversial, but I find it so boring. I'm thinking, oh my God. So, Dwayne, what are your thoughts? I know it's hard to do in a way because we're fans, but you know, if you had to kind of have a bottom dwelling relegation zone of Doctor Who, Tom Baker.
I don't know if I can do it. I don't know if I can get to 5, but I can give you 2. My least favorite Fourth Doctor is, without a doubt, 100%. Dan, you know what it is. It's Image of the Fendal. I cannot stand that. I find it so boring. But here's another one that I recently gave a go because I read the book that was recently released, Warrior's Gate. And that has been re-released with an expanded edition with a couple of extra stories tacked on the end of it. And I read that, and I thought I'm going to understand Warrior's Gate better through reading the book.
Yeah,
but I didn't. I understood it less. And then I went and watched the TV episode, and they're quite different, the book and the TV episode. So I was even more confused. And Warrior's Gate's always one that I've gone, wow, this is so clever. It's got to be good. But I just find myself hard to wrap my head around it. So I'll give you those 2: Image of the Fendal, Warrior's Gate.
Yeah, you see, Warrior's Gate, I saw somebody list it as one of their top ones. Paul Richards says, I tend to prefer bizarre, more surreal stuff. So Warrior's Gate, it is one of those. I'm one of those. It's like with season 1, and people saying, if you watch Rogue 27 times, you'll see it's really clever. And I'm thinking, no, nobody normal does that. I'm a Doctor Who fan, but I like to think I'm a casual viewer too, in a way that I'm strict, and I'm a perfectionist and critical. And so if you have to watch it many, many times, there must be something wrong with the storytelling or something. You can't say, you know, once you do the degree in Warrior's Gate, you'll understand it. Well, how is that good entertainment? I get the concept and all the rest of it, but I tend to, and I have to say, that one there that says East Space did bore me a bit. It did bore me a bit.
Full Circle's definitely boring.
Well, we were
melons
saying
and spiders.
Well, we were saying, it was Hugh who said it in our review of State of Decay, that Full Circle, then State of Decay, they were a similar story. The awakening and the this and the that and science and elders. They almost repeated the same story twice. And you mentioned Key to Time, Dan, but I have a problem with the Key to Time as well. I think the Key to Time dragged and it didn't quite lift off.
Yeah, no, look, it isn't. I don't think it's the strongest season, but there are good bits in it. And yes, I watched the Armageddon Factor recently, and look, it's okay, but I'd probably put it, with needing to pick something, I'd probably put it in my bottom 5. That and I'm not. I like Meglos. Yep. No, I can't do it.
It's interesting. You've got Androids of Tara from Mark Jones there. I mean, Horns of Nimon, Nightmare of Eden, Dwayne. Oh my God. Leisure Hive. John Daly adores Leisure Hive, one of our panelists. Invasion of Time. Good morning, David Hardin. You've just said good morning. We've got Crimpling. Nightmare of Eden is a great script let down by the production values. So I suppose, do we call it a bad story or a good story in Doctor Who?
I don't think it's the production values. I think it just needed the light lights turned down a bit in the cruiser. They just had it just overlit in certain areas.
But I will agree with Dwayne. For some reason, in the same season you have Horror Fan Rock, Image of the Fendal, I can see it has all the tick box of goodies for Doctor Who, but it just doesn't come together in the way I want it to. It just doesn't do it.
You guys are just having me on. That's. There's no way that you guys really don't like it.
It doesn't do it. I've got the season 15 Blu-rays. I've watched them all, but the Image of the Fendal I've kind of left out. I just can't be bothered.
I would watch Underworld 20 times before I watched Image of the Fendal once. Easily.
Wow.
It just shows you. So aren't we glad we have that Tom Baker era, though? I mean, it was when we were all growing up. I can speak for myself, but it was what a fab time. And I have to say, there's bits in every story just about, aren't there? My only problem was, I suppose, in the final season for Tom Baker, it felt as though he was made to be more sedate and older, and that it was a shame that I know it was a change of style and everything, and I wanted Tom Baker as Tom Baker was, you know. I tend to see once the jacket goes burgundy, we've got problems. I feel as though earlier Fourth Doctor's brilliant. Obviously, Raymond Williams is shouting out Pyramids of Mars. How can we ever forget that? Pastiche of the Hammer horror films.
I feel like I got damaged this year. It feels like it's been marred a bit.
I know. Well, I'm one of those fans who can't do this compartmentalization. When people say, I switch off, I can watch an old Who and you can do what the hell with new Who. No. When I was watching the War Games and when we did the review of Terror of the Autons, for obvious reasons, is that the intro to the Master? Or is it not?
No, it's the War
Games.
In
the back of my head. In the back of my head. So, yeah, and of course, the next time I see Genesis of the Daleks, I'll be very, very aware of what's happened.
Terror of the Autons.
Can I also say that you've just brought up the picture from Sharda? That's also another one, even though it's Douglas Adams, who I love, Graham Williams era, who I love. I think Sharda is a little bit too long for me. I find myself very bored getting through Sharda, and I've tried virtually every version of it, and I just find it really hard to get through.
I know what you mean. I do know what you mean. Sometimes you hear the myth of it. Oh, the story that you missed. And then when it's cobbled together, yeah. Too much Cambridge going on. It was a joke about uni and stuff. Yeah, it's there was something missed on me anyway. So yes, and there's Talons of Wen Cheyenne, of course, when they're rehearsing. Classic. Okay, well, this is when I might cause toxic problems. I'm sorry about this, folks. Or maybe I'm not. Maybe this will cheer you up. But we'll have you heard the rumor about season 2? Here we go.
98, 97, 96, 95, 94, 93, 92, 91.
Yeah, it's a quickie because I do promise not to do the detox toxifying. So on the season 2 countdown, did you see this rumor? It could be left of field or anything, but did you see it about Peter Dinklage?
No, I didn't. I didn't see this at all.
It says that.
Oh, that's hilarious.
So all I'm going to do is just show you this and then just enjoy the debate, because all I can say is I saw this. That's all I've seen. I haven't seen any other evidence, nothing. This could be just a wild moment of Doctor Who fans just spreading rumors. But it does say on this one source, the BBC confirmed after leaked images appeared online this morning of Dinklage filming. Now, I can't find any confirmation anywhere. So, you know, but it's interesting, isn't it? Let me just confirm there are no confirmations. There's just one tweet, but I just thought, let's get it out there and just, it's a man. Are we not doing a Misty?
He's got a beard.
He's got a beard. He was pretty shady in the Game of Thrones, wasn't he?
I loved him in Game of Thrones.
He was great in that, but you know,
especially when he shot his dad on the loo.
Well, as Peter Venkman said, who got woken up by his dog just to watch this, it's not April the 1st yet. I know. I'm putting it there because I want it to be a kind of detoxifying time. Does that thrill you if it was by any chance true? I know that the Sasha Master people are. Some love, some don't. The Wild Master, I'm not into. Of course, the Master's a gold tooth at the moment, so he is diminutive already. It's a very tiny gold tooth. But I don't know. The thing is, please, anybody out there, I have found no confirmation of this story. It's got a quote there from RTD. I can't find it anywhere. And that tweet says BBC confirmed. I see no confirmation. whether everything's taken down. You know, all the nonsense about when Ncuti Gatwa went on the Graham Norton show and they doctored what he said. So you heard one version and you heard another. So I thought, well, I'll put it out there. It's a bit of fun. What does it make you think, lads, though?
Oh, it just makes me laugh. I think it'd be funny.
Yeah.
No, I don't have any feelings about Doctor Who at the moment. Like, I don't care anymore. So, you know, whatever happens, happens. I'm not invested in it. I'm not anticipating it. When it comes out, I'll watch it. And yeah, because I mean, I haven't spoken to you guys about Joy to the World either, so you don't know my feelings on that. But if it's anything like my experience with that, I'll just watch it and move on. There you go. But it sounds funny.
Well, I want Doctor Who taken seriously by the people who make it. Peter Dinklage is a proper actor, and he's good in Game of Thrones. That's all I can say on that one. I don't know what they would be making the Master into. I actually personally don't want the Daleks back. I don't want the Master back. I just don't want them tampering at the moment. Let them go forward in all your beliefs and prove to me that let them just go forward and come up with new stuff for now. No more faffing. Doctor Who Before and Beyond. Haven't seen this rumor, but please, no, don't get me wrong. Peter's great, but I just don't see it, honestly. Well, and I'm being fair with you. I haven't grifted it. I haven't put it on my thumbnail. I saw it in one tweet and I cannot find any confirmation. So, yeah, you know, take it as you want.
I bet someone wants it real bad.
We've had a child play a scientist with weaponized scooters, so anything's possible now. I know. I did start to go there. Maybe there's going to be a series where every Planet of the Giants will be one of the.
Has anyone said yet when it's coming? Because R2D was saying a little while ago, "Oh, it's coming sooner than you think," and it's like, well, when's that?
It's a very strange. If you really decode that statement, obviously last year it was May, but it's coming sooner than you think. What? Everybody's got groupthink now. We all think it was coming on in March. That can be completely true, false, or nonsense because it makes no sense. It's coming sooner than you think, and he's talking to a population of what, the world? What? Did you think it was January, February, March, April, May? I bet you we don't all agree. So who thought what? It's a kind of nonsense statement, but we're getting used to them. Boomer Doug, I think Neil Gaiman producing new Doctor Who starring Captain Jack lighter than Dinklage. Boomer Doug, you're getting.
I think you're right, Doug.
Yeah, I'm not on the show, but I'm just gonna keep throwing mines in. Boom, boom, boom. I tell you what, just for that alone, Boomer Doug, I'm gonna. There you go. Just for that one. Don't ask me how that's flashed up. That's fascinating. How did that happen? That was from an old one, wasn't it? So let me just take that off. Gosh, this new technology is not quite working as it used to. So thank you for that, Boomer Doug, you little devil. So yeah, a bit of a rumor, probably a rumor that's not going to go anywhere, but a bit of fun nonetheless. So I'll show it one more time for everyone to screenshot it going, and then it'll be a bushfire by tea time. Now, next one. It is a detoxifying channel, so we are always trying our best to bring the fun rather than the poison. So here we go. This is normally our other little tiny segment item. Here we go.
Sensorites have found a way to take control.
It's our minds that they take over.
Speak up, I can't hear.
Earthmen have visited the set sphere, but we do not.
Yes, you know, I like to have a slumber schedule. I know they tend to be British. Boomer Doug sent me a few ages ago, and if any Aussies out there, send them on Gmail. I know sometimes your viewing in Australia, in Canada, in America of Doctor Who was different sometimes. But send me sometimes some classic schedules. I still think it's fun and nostalgic to do. So here's one from 1968, just to get you kind of going. What was life like then? Timey-wimey. Yes, I know it's Saturday, so it's with it being Britain, it's always going to be that sports grandstand mentioned. But if you just look at it, you've got The Impossibles in the morning, then Grandstand, then Doctor Who. This is the Troughton one with the Evil of the Daleks, Part 4. And then you get the new Lucy show. So Lucille Ball, still on TV then. D Time, Simon D. The Man from Uncle. So Boomer Doug would love that. Where he's needed, from the organisation defeated to the worldwide fight against crime and subversion. And this episode in which Uncle, they're studying Heavenly's body. Billy Cotton's Music Hall. You've got lots of stars on that. And then you've got BBC Two doing various different things. And then just another one for everybody, and I'll see what the lads think about whether they'd like to go in a time machine for a second. This is very Cliff Richard orientated, it looks like to me. You've got international rugby, Scotland v France. Then you've got Walt Disney's The Mouse Factory, which I used to love, all those Disney time things, and a quick bit of boring news. And then you've got The Brain of Morbius, Doctor Who. This is 10th of January, 76. And then after that, you've got Cliff Richard and Has All His Friends. But of course, I'm noticing on BBC Two at 4:35, always an hour or less before Doctor Who. I always remember Play Away, Brian Cant, Tony Arthur, Carol Shell. Oh, yeah. The music, lads, I'm sorry about this, but the music to Play Away, especially at the end, got me in a good mood thinking it's not long now before Doctor Who. It just got the vibe going. Have you got anything like that from your, formative years of watching Doctor Who where you associate another program's music with Doctor Who?
Yes, absolutely. And just looking at those TV schedules reminded me of back in the day, the Australian magazine was called TV Week. And I remember used to get that and look at the schedules. I was always very happy to see Doctor Who in there, which we got a lot. So to our UK viewers, we got lots and lots of Doctor Who. But yeah, I think the one that stands out to me is Danger Mouse. Danger Mouse was always shown just before Doctor Who in the 80s. So we'd have the goodies, then we'd have Danger Mouse, then Doctor Who. So the final credits. Roger Ramjet was another one. Yeah. So, but Danger Mouse is the one that always sticks in my mind. So
you almost do link the music to it.
Yes, that anticipation of Doctor Who's about to be on. Yeah.
And our schedules were like the same for so long, just on repeat. It was like programming at the ABC would have been a piece of piss.
Well, in some ways, though, that's what's given us all these memories, isn't it? Because in Britain of a certain age, we mention Basil Brush, or we will mention the Pink Panther show before Doctor Who. There was certain, as soon as that, that lovely Pink Panther car, the lad gets in the car, he comes out the cinema or whatever it is, he gets his helmet on and he drives away in that pink car. As soon as that happens, you're going, right, here we go, right. Quick rush to the loo, get all the cushions around me on the sofa, and here we go. It's Doctor Who time. Basil Brush, he sang at the end his last story, and then you got some tune, and then you thought, right, it's time. And then there was another show, but I'm not going to mention because he ended up being a very bad person in Britain as a paedophile, so we won't go there. But there was another show that linked to Doctor Who, unfortunately. So yeah, go on. What have you got there, Dan?
So I went and saw these guys live here in Sydney, and they were explaining at the time. This was like probably around 2002, so they were old by then, obviously, and they were explaining that because we'd seen so much goodies, that apparently the Australian fan was like apparently larger over here because we'd just been indoctrinated with it. So
yeah, because I apart from the famous ones with the golden egg, that Panto type one, and the giant Dougal and the giant cat with the post office tower. I don't recall the goodies being repeated too much, and so therefore it was on and off. I loved it.
No,
Loved
and
it.
I understood that you. I think they acknowledged there was sort of a marketing problem because it was perceived as a sort of a kiddie's name, but it was an adult show.
Yeah, I
But
thought
then the ABC didn't seem to understand that it was an adult show and put it on at 6 p.m. in the or
Before
5
Doctor Who,
o'clock
yeah.
in the after 5 o'clock in the afternoon when with full frontal nudity and stuff. I think that show was the first time I saw boobs.
it was definitely on about 7 p.m. in Britain, because I do remember it was later than Doctor Who easily, and it was also a weekday that was put on. You stay up and have a laugh at the humor and everything, then go to bed, it felt like to me. Oh, now the next one, we're Doctor Who fans. Easy, easy, easy. Here we go. Now, on this day or around about this day, I mean, where do you start, lads? I'm really asking you to rank order things, and this is hard. So on this day, and I've nicked a few from the day before and maybe one from the day after, just to be kind of neat about this. Oh my God, I'll make the list for you, but lads, you can't be sitting on the fence this time. What would be your faves here? Terror of the Autons, Part 3. The Romans, the slave trade.
Brain of Morbius.
Spearhead from Space, Part 3. The Brain of Morbius, Part 3. Warrior's Gate, Part 3. 4 to Doomsday, Part 1. Robot, Part 4. So you'll have the Action Man and the tank. The Crotons, Part 4. So there you go. Now, Dan, are you up for that one? Or was that the one you really wanted? Or were you just shouting that one out?
No, Brain of Morbius. Yeah. The only thing I struggle with this is the part. Would I rather watch Part 3 of Brain of Morbius or Part 4 of Robot? Don't know.
You see, I liked the build-up with the robots, Parts 1 and 2, I think, if I was being honest. The build-up. I liked the mystery of what was that robot, then seeing the robot with Sarah and the mystery of the think tank. When sometimes Doctor Who Part 4s suffer a little bit because it has to sort it all out. And yes, he has to go past with a bucket and chuck it on it. And of course, the effects and the Sarah doll and stuff like that. Yeah, Robot Part 4.
Let me see if I can pick Dwayne's.
Well, Warrior's Gate, definitely not.
The Crotons.
Well, you see, I have a lovely soft.
How did you know? No, I'd have to say without a doubt it's Spearhead from Space, because I mean Spearhead from Space Part 2 was the first episode I ever saw as a kid, and I still remember the cliffhanger to that. Even though the Doctor or no regulars were in that cliffhanger, the terror that I experienced at that cliffhanger I can still recall very vividly. So I would have been eagerly anticipating Spearhead from Space Part 3, and that was just as good.
Spearhead from Space is the best Auton story. Like, it's so much better than Terror of the Autons. I mean, Terror of the Autons, just the whole, you actually, when you think about what they did to the Master, and that's pretty bad, because it's like the Master's helping the Autons, and then all of a sudden the Doctor just goes, do you realize that they're going to completely screw you over? And it's like, oh shit, you're right. Let's just chuck our plan out the window and eject them into space. It's like, it really wasn't a strong sell for the Master's intelligence.
Well, David Harding's he said he's tempted by the Romans one because it's a fun story, but he might have to pick, as you, Dan, the Brain of Morbius. Robert Bowles has said the Spearhead from Space. I'm torn a bit. I've just done the review of Terror of the Autons, and well, I won't give away our rating of it, but it does have a lot of jeopardy, and the end of episode 2 is the reveal of the policeman mask, and then you've got all the stunts in part 3.
That's a great stunt,
and then it ends part 3 with the telephone cord around John Pertwee, which was meant to be the Brigadier, but the Brigadier, like I said, Nicholas Courtney was having issues, so that they reduced that part a bit. So,
what's your opinion on the Blu-ray special effects on Terror of the Autons? Because I think they're absolutely brilliant, particularly with the doll, the troll doll. Special effects are brilliant. They kind of blend in with that era perfectly. Like some special effects, they look new, but these ones they seem to have that troll doll blended in very well.
Yeah.
You've got me wondering. I don't think I've seen it with. I might need to go and check my Blu-ray again.
Oh, it's wonderful, brilliant.
I don't think I've seen it upgraded. I've obviously watched it, but maybe I didn't turn the special effects on.
It was just for I know what you mean, Dwayne. I think it doesn't stand out, which is probably good. I'm not, because I can't remember. I have seen it, obviously, but I think I remember at the time thinking, oh yeah, they've nice kind of smoothed it over a little bit. It's kind of a bit more kind of integrated into the whole thing.
Did they fix the creaky kitchen set thing with the wife? You know, where she's like clearly CSO'd in.
Oh, there was so much
with the troll, the lady with the troll doll.
Yeah, we did discuss that actually in our review, because we said there was so much CSO being used, and we know it's budget, and we know actually it means, because that story has a lot of outside broadcast and stunts. I mean, the man falling from the pylon. So that's expensive. Therefore, you're going to have shortcuts with some CSO. But I know the CSO where it's that flat backdrop of a kitchen photograph.
Yeah, that's the sort of thing you'd see in the goodies, a fake kitchen.
Yeah.
Or fake bathroom.
But anyway, to round it off, I think I'm going to side with Dan. Please don't record this and time code it or anything. But the Brain of Morbius, I think I'm going for, because that was... It hadn't been wrecked yet, because like I say, part 4's a funny one for me, but part 3 was still building all the problems, and you've got... Is Sarah still blind at this point? And then we've seen the brain go away, and all the rest of it. But before it goes into the fish tank thing.
Chop suey.
Yeah, although that is funny, and I do like when Tom Baker does that sort of stuff.
Hey, just while we're on Brain of Morbius, did you guys, when you watched Brain of Morbius and saw in the mind-bending competition, when you saw the faces that you didn't know, did you just think they were versions of Morbius, or did you think they were unknown versions of the Doctor? Because I just always had it in my head canon. I didn't even think that it was the Doctor. I just assumed that it was like, if it was a mind-bending contest, that they were Morbius.
I remember, it's a shame you can't with all the YouTube copyright and stuff. I'd love to just show a clip now, because I think the dialogue when Morbius says, "How far back do you go?" and then you see
he says, "How long have you lived?"
Yeah,
and all those faces that pop up when he says that.
Yeah,
you could argue that could be the Doctor, but I always myself thought, oh well, that's the Doctor wrestling back. Yes. And he's going back, even though Morbius wants to take the Doctor back. It's actually the Doctor taking Morbius back. That's what I always thought myself. Yeah.
That's what you hope. You hope for. I mean, everybody's still alive.
Little did we know that's what the original writers intended, was for the timeless child. I had no idea.
No, it's amazing, isn't it? I mean, gosh, it was genius. That it's a shame they never wrote the story then instead. I don't think I've ever watched The Terror of the Autons with the updated effects, says David Harding. Maybe it was just so subtle. I think it was. I remember seeing it going, oh, yeah. And not thinking, because, there's sometimes you're going, oh, you're just showing off now, and it doesn't fit. And that's my argument with some of the war game stuff. And actually, that is right. I think we do have a toxic alert coming up, really, because, lads, I do need to talk about this. The war games in colour, just to get a wrap up of where we are, because the Doctor Who fandom has not stopped talking about this. It's not gone away, and so I think we do need to talk about it. So we're discussing the Master in particular for a moment. That should fire up and get us all toxic. Here we go.
Yeah.
Yes. So
why'd you scribble him out? That's disrespectful.
Oh, it was disgraceful. I thought Ade Brayshaw was brilliant in it as the war chief, but do not dabble, please.
War chief master.
Yeah. So the colour, great. We've discussed that already. You've got Benjamin Cook, who's the editor of the War Games in Colour, said those 60s Doctor Who stories were made for colour. They weren't shot in black and white as a creative choice. So whatever. Okay, yeah. We've seen photographs of Marco Polo and that. You had then Benjamin Cook's reasoning. This was in the Doctor Who magazine. He might call himself the War Chief, but he is so clearly the Master. Inserting a surprise appearance from the Master into a 55-year-old story was irresistible, and to do it solely through music and colour was even more fun. Fun. We're having fun now. Phil Collinson, of course, who obviously, as the executive producer, said this. In my head, the War Chief was always the Master, and we've lent into that. We've got Murray Gold and Dudley Simpson's Master themes under some of those big confrontations he has with Patrick Troughton. It's brilliant, such brilliant Doctor Who, but when you imagine it's the Doctor and the Master, it's more epic. You end up investing so much more in that character. I mean, what a finale for the second Doctor. I think it's one of the best Doctor Who finales there's ever been. So...
Is he talking about their version or the actual version?
Of course he is.
I think it sounds like somebody marking their own homework, to be honest. But so your thought, Dan? I know you had a great meetup with Dwayne when Sirens of Audio had Sylvester McCoy, and I think you met some of the people who had colorized. And of course, I get that. Passionate people, skilled people, talented people, doing it for the right reasons. And I have no problem with the colorization at all. I think it's great. But this is an editorial decision, and I just want your opinions on it. So, Dan, where do you truly stand on this?
Look, I'm not losing my mind like all the people that I've seen online losing it over it. I just think it's not worth the grief. I didn't find it offensive. I actually enjoyed it as a standalone thing, knowing that the original's still over there untouched and unmolested. But I think it was done respectfully, and I do genuinely sort of I don't think it was done to piss people off, to be honest. I suspect they possibly knew it might upset some people, but I don't think it was done to upset people.
I was talking to Neil Cole the other day, who's got the Sci-Fi Museum, and he restores some of the classic monsters and stuff like that. And I was talking to him about this very point, and I said, if I'm a custodian or restoring something that wasn't mine, and I'm doing it just to bring it back, I don't impose any of myself on it. I don't impose, and Neil Cole was agreeing that you don't even impose new ways of making stuff. So if he's messing with the models and some of the latex and stuff, he's not bringing new techniques to it. He's trying to do it the same as then, because it needs to fit into that piece. You know, if you're going to, if you're going to design a pteroleptal but make it very 2025, then it's not a pteroleptal. You've changed it from what it was in the Visitation, and therefore it's disrespectful. And I feel the same about doing this.
Look, I think if you take that approach, I agree with that. It could be seen as disrespectful, but the other option is, okay, you say, well, unless you can colorize the whole thing from woe to go, you shouldn't touch it at all. Which I've heard plenty of people say that, and I go, okay, yes, that's true. But then commercially, the amount of time and energy to actually get it colorized, it's got to pay you. The money's got to come.
They'd never make the money back.
They'd never make it back. And we're 90 minutes closer to a fully colorized version than we were before this. And so from my perspective is, we're closer than we've ever been to having a fully colorized version. And there's nothing to stop that from happening down the track. But the minute you say, well, we've got to edit it to make it commercially viable to do it, you've immediately then got it's like renovating a house. Once you start, moving the walls and changing your internal dimensions, it immediately means that, well, you're going to need new carpet. You've got to repaint we've got to repaint everything. So same way here, they did not colorize the whole thing and then chop everything apart. They edited that. The colorists told us they edited it down, and they started it with the edited versions, and they all got their pieces and they colorized their pieces.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, the edits were done probably 2 years ago, and the final mix was probably more recent. But in terms of, and at that stage, everyone was on the line, so I don't think they were setting out to upset people.
Well, I don't think the colorizers were trying to upset anybody. I think they were doing their job very, very ably. The thing is, it's not them who've decided this.
Yeah. But I think when those guys, when Ben Cook and RTD and Collinson, that they were, this would have all been back at the very beginning before there was any bad press. I mean, I think we forget how quickly the shine came off everything in 2023. I mean, it was pretty positive right up until Davros Gate, and then, you know, basically by Christmas, everyone was upset.
You just stole my thunder.
Yeah.
Go on, go
That's
for it,
where it all
Dwayne.
started.
Yeah.
Well, my view of the War Games was that I enjoyed watching the War Games. I had a couple of concerns because I had some big issues with the Daleks. My biggest issue with the Daleks was, well, for me, I think the music was too overpowering. Combine that with the edit, made the Daleks virtually unwatchable for me in color from a certain point onwards, as you know we've talked about. So I was concerned about that. And then when Aaron in Sydney told us, Dan, that the whole soundtrack had been re-recorded by Mark Ayres, I went, oh no, what's he going to do? Is he going to put in the drums and the disco tunes like he did for the Daleks? But so I was listening very carefully to the music, and Mark has been very faithful to the original soundtrack. It's virtually the same.
Yeah.
There are only a few little tweaks here and there. Some in the headquarters. He's added a few little tonal aspects to it. And I've seen so many complaints about the music being too loud. You can't hear anything. But I honestly don't hear how it's so loud. It is nothing like.
I actually think it's been turned down in some areas.
Yeah, it's nothing like as bad as it was in the Daleks. So I was concerned about that. Well, I knew I'd been spoiled with the master stuff, so I knew that was coming. I thought it was clever at the time. Then I found out, because I didn't know what the story was with Terrence Dix. I don't really like the fact that they've gone and made that decision, but they can do what they like. It doesn't really change the original for me, so that doesn't matter. The regeneration scene at the end I thought was fantastic. Doesn't really fit in with the sort of style that. There was one other aspect that stood out to me that really irritated me. It was every shot of that model headquarters. It looked like Jerry Anderson type thing that didn't suit the style of the show. So that stood out to me. I thought, I don't really like that. The thing that really got me more than anything else was seeing those future doctors in the regeneration scene. I did not appreciate that. I thought that is someone coming in trying to put their own stamp on it more than anything else, and it was them trying to be super smug, super clever. And like we saw that quote from Phil Collinson, and there's an air of smugness and arrogance that we kind of maybe sense too much now. But I think it all started with RTD coming out and saying, well, Davros is not in the wheelchair anymore, tough luck. You know, and that kind of thing is what we've picked up on everything that anyone ever says ever since then. And I don't think Phil Collinson would have meant anything and would have meant to upset anyone, like Dan was saying. But we're super sensitive to it now. And I didn't like the fact that, you know, they've got the thin doctor. Why isn't that offensive? You know, to keep that in there. I was a beanpole growing up, and I was teased about being so skinny. So why was that left in and the fat line removed? Because that's politically correct. Keep the fat line in there.
They should have shown the fat doctor.
If they were gonna do future doctors, why not create them in the same way that they were in the? Why not sketch them? You could have sketches and we'd still know who they were, but they put these kind of photoshopped images in their costumes that looked really strange. That didn't work. Didn't work for me at all.
Yeah, just that's what I mean. If you're going to do anything to old series of anything, and you are supposed to be curating, please keep it within style. because it then stands out too much. I mean, like that you said, the model effects. As you know, one of the things I really struggle with is who said that regeneration effect is the most amazing thing ever, that it's going to have to be on every doctor forever. We've now kind of trademarked it. It's the RTD regeneration, and it's not even spectacular. In fact, some would argue it's stupid because it blows up the TARDIS every time, which makes no sense. I love the subtle Planet of Spiders regeneration. He needs a gentle nudge. I like the Logopolis one where you kind of have a portent of what's coming. I don't like this kind of, it's almost like an RTD regeneration, which is larger than life, louder, brasher, but to impose it on Classic Who, I think is a misstep. And of course, we had that with the War Games at the end. And I just think it is actually unnecessary. I do, and I think this is where you hit the problem of the editing. If you're going to edit so much out, and I know that's hard to do with a 10-episode story, you then add in new scenes. So hold on, that's a bit naughty. You could have saved another scene, but no, you're adding another one because, to be honest, it's all about branding, merchandising, the Whoniverse, and to be honest, I think there's more mischief than you're kidding on here. They can set up a whole Big Finish lineup with this master now. You can do so much more. They're looking for ways of doing that with fugitive doctors. You know, they're trying to find all these different layers to make this bigger universe. And just to open that crack, the only thing I'm happy about is they didn't do the fugitive doctor before the John Pertwee doctor. My heart was in my mouth at that point. I was dreading it.
I was also worried, and I put this to Aaron at the time because I knew there was a regeneration scene coming. Was that I'm also a fan of the 6B era. So for anyone who doesn't know, there's a whole series of stories of the Second Doctor post trial on Gallifrey that he did, and even Big Finish has gone on with that, and of course Big Finish is canon. And so I was concerned that would be taken away, but it's not. It's done in such a way that the 6B can still be there in your own head canon if you want, even though it's the true canon. So yeah, you're right. The
other thing, Dwayne,
they didn't ruin that so much.
But you made a good point, Dwayne, about the they took the too fat mark out of the kind of pre-regeneration.
That irritated me. It was so politically correct to remove that line,
and yet
it was unnecessary.
Yeah, but the thing is, they think they're politically correct, so they want us all to applaud them for taking that line out because they're very sensitive to fat shaming, and yet the Mel character of Bonnie Lanford in The Giggle is the Mad Auntie, and Mad's all right. But of course, he's very bothered about mental health, isn't he, RTD, in 2025? And he's very bothered because we're in a dark world and he wants to reflect this. And so we want a more emotional doctor. But he's just called Mel the Mad Auntie. So Mad is all right. And it's this nonsense. And yeah, the jokes about the David Tennant doctor being too skinny. I still don't know why Donna Noble in The Star Beast had to have those lines about you shouldn't be wearing that if you're over 35 and all that stuff. I thought, what is this? So you're right to remark on it, Dwayne, because, you know, they want plaudits for being PC, but then they're very non-PC, I personally think. They're making jokes about madness. They're making jokes about being thin. It's
Well, I was very sensitive as a kid about being so skinny. So what, you know, who cares about me? I'm extremely offended.
Yeah.
Not really.
But it's just mad. I
mean, I could be, couldn't I?
Of course.
Couldn't I be outraged about that? You know, why, you know, it's very thinnest.
Yes. Well, I think I'm going to just warn people. Everything has trigger warnings now, doesn't it? So this is my trigger warning. We all know it. Because, yeah, we seem to have hit the toxic part. I said in the preface that we always try and detoxify, and then I start to churn it up. You know, while I've been ill, every stream has been talking about it. I've been frustrated as hell that I've not been able to talk about it. And as you know, they found from behind the sofa, the only thing that's behind the sofa nowadays in Doctor Who, the audience appreciation figures. And they found them, didn't they? And they weren't very good. And I just found this so fascinating that we all thought Space Babies and Devil's Cord was one of the worst launches to Doctor Who you could ever consider. And of course, we're all dissed as Neanderthals and go and touch grass and how very dare you. But look at the audience appreciation figures, 75 and 77. I mean, that is dire. Love and Monsters got 76. Church and Ruby Road got 82. The specials got 83, 84, and 85. And it doesn't really pick up. I mean, it's languishing for 6 episodes around the 77 mark. You get a bit of a blip at the end. I mean, I'm sure you've seen these because they've been out for a couple of weeks now, but why were they hiding them if they were so good? They were hiding them because they were so bad. And they don't want any evidence out there that their series is tanking. Because as you know, they say ratings doesn't matter. Overnights don't matter. It's all about streaming now, darling. And they give you all this list. And audience appreciation to me is, it's like if you go to a football match, do you stay till the end and not boo? If you go to the theatre, do you stay for the second act? That's to me what audience appreciation is. And of course, they find them behind the settee, and they're bad. Do they correlate with what you were thinking, Dwayne?
I'm not quite sure how the audience appreciation works. It's a selection of what? Is it 1,000 people that do this survey?
I'm not sure what the numbers of the database, so to speak.
And I can't remember, but I think that Jodie's last season was worse than this, wasn't it? So it was a slight improvement. So they'll probably go, well, this is better than the last series.
Power of the Doctor ended on 83.
Did it?
It did. She did have a few in the 70s. She did. But this
what was Tennant getting at his height? Was he getting like 87s, 88s?
Yeah, 80s. I mean,
high 80s, was he?
Yeah. Stolen Earth and stuff like that. If I remember, I've got it written somewhere. It's around 87, 88. They were really scoring big. 80s is good. I mean, 81 for The Legend of Ruby Sunday. I think you've got a lot of anticipation. It's a climax, blah, blah, blah. And it ramps it up suddenly, doesn't it? And it does start to be a bit more distinctively Doctor Who. But then he doesn't deliver and it goes down to 80 when it falls apart, splat on your face. I mean, if you look...
I'm sure that Flux, I think that was getting 75s and under. I'm sure it was.
Yeah,
so
I
it's
agree.
not the lowest it's ever been, but it's not much of an improvement.
But it does call into question, doesn't it, Dan? I mean, Space Baby 75, that is, like I said, it's below Love and Monsters. And that's his decision, RTD's decision, the first season back under him. And he decided... it's such a disastrous choice.
No, and it's hard to watch this season with the anticipation that we all had leading up to it, because we were expecting something big and amazing, and with Disney money and I was fairly comfortable that Bad Wolf were going to have fairly independent creative control, and my gut says that they did. It wasn't. I don't think it was Disney that caused this. I feel like they took the money, and the stories aren't worthy of the money. Really, I just don't think.
Yeah,
I don't think. It's a real shame because there's a big part of me that always wanted to see our Doctor Who stories done with the money behind it.
Yeah,
and there's so many, you see some really good fan stuff that obviously they're doing with no money, and it's like I never really felt like we needed heaps to get the old Doctor Who to that level of polish, and yet we've had this opportunity and we've completely squandered it on crap, really.
Well, and the other thing is, just I've enlarged it just to show a few things. Okay, there's the argument about he's launched it badly, but then, of course, it's interesting that apart from the climax at the end, Boom, which is written by Stephen Moffat, gets higher. It's also interesting that I remember all the fuss about Dot and Bubble's amazing. Did you see him at the end? What a way to be a doctor. Rogue, what a beautiful episode. You lot don't get it. Rogue was very clever, blah, blah, blah. 73 yards is stunning. Well, I agree. 73 yards while it was in the village was atmospheric, and then he ballsed it up by going years and years on us. But basically, they're all saying 77. Now, that's dull. That's kind of, meh. So basically, all those people on Twitter who are, and I know Twitter is not the universe, who are saying, "You're wrong. Don't you realize it was so beautifully done, so well acted?" The audience aren't agreeing with you lot at all. Because
Well, something that stood out to me was the final 2 episodes, because we've got The Legend of Ruby Sunday, Empire of Death. Now, if you asked any Doctor Who fan who really examines the show, maybe watches it more than once, the general consensus among fans who are watching this series and enjoying it were that The Legend of Ruby Sunday was good, and The Empire of Death was a massive disappointment on top of that. But the audience appreciation doesn't really indicate that. It's only a slight drop. So it just goes to show that The Empire of Death, if a casual viewer was just watching that, it'd be like flash over them. They'd probably go, "Oh, I don't really understand that, but it looked okay."
Yeah.
So it wasn't that much of a drop. So I find that's an interesting thing that stood out to me, I think.
There has also been talk that these leaked figures are still slightly inflated. I mean, obviously that cannot be proved, but that's what I've heard. I find it fascinating that the church on Ruby Road, which again to me was meh. You've got a song in it, a Goblin King. It was Jack and the Beanstalk. It had the goodies in it, really. I mean, it was just and Mavity. We know where we're going with this. I got 82. And I remember, like I've always said, my mum, who hates Doctor Who, despises Doctor Who, was sat watching Church on Ruby Road and said, that was all right. So 82 maybe reflects that basically if you sat there half asleep, it was all right. Because that's really...
I didn't have alarm bells until Space Babies and Devil's Cord.
Yeah,
that was the first point where I thought, oh crap, what are we doing here? Yeah.
Well, it was like, how do we get off the bus? I remember, a double bill of Doctor Who. I remember avoiding the streaming. Remember all that nonsense. I know in Australia you might have found that preferable, actually, that the timings were better. But I remember, because it was that night we had the Northern Lights were brilliant in the north here. So me and Jamie said, right, we can avoid streaming at midnight very well by actually going just to the beach a mile away and looking at the Northern Lights and just avoid all the Space Babies nonsense and try and avoid Twitter. But then to sit down before the Eurovision and watch this double bill, and then I just didn't know where to go, because Space Babies, I just felt as though I should have been watching Teletubbies. I just thought, gosh, I thought I was a grown man, but wow. And then Devil's Cord, I actually was more troubled by in some ways, because Devil's Cord actually started doing that to the fans, which is nudge and wink. There's June Hudson, we're going to kill her. Wink. We had the whole nonsense with breaking the fourth wall. And then that song and dance routine at the end, which meant they basically had no plot and they wanted to fill it with 2.5 minutes of nonsense. Then the burping TARDIS at the end with that one musical note. Just too much. You are really riling me. And he thought that was really very 2024. Gosh, how I don't know. And it's just been a series that is very forgetful. And when we were talking about Tom Baker, you think, we had our moments. I had my moments with season 17 when it got a little bit kind of, puerile humor, a little bit under Graham Williams. But when I look at this, as you say, Dan, you can throw all the money at it and the production values are great. I feel, this is how I feel when you've talked about the colorizers. I feel sorry for people behind the scenes, all these great people who are busting a gut to make brilliant Doctor Who, and I think they are, but the stories are cruddy.
It's funny, when in the Unleashed for Space Babies, there was production crew that they were showing all the skills and amazing talents of the production crew that were making the effects and dressing the scenes and stuff. And I was thinking at that point, oh my God, you're sitting there with these talented people and you're making them scribble out crap on a paper, and how terrible. And then literally, I think there was next part of the interview, they'll cut to RTD saying, look, it's really important to get a script together that is worthy of all the effort. I'm thinking, wow, it's like he knows that it's not up to par, but he's trying to, just smooth it over.
Yeah. I remember saying, I think, some of it was Unleashed are fascinating, because that in Space Babies, there was that woman out of uni or art college, and she was doing all the babies' drawings.
Yes, that's what I'm thinking of.
God, she put so much effort into it.
Yep.
Which Unleashed was it when they showed you? It was Joy to the World, and that artist had to do all that Gallifreyan mathematics on the wall that's in the hotel room. Oh my God!
I find it interesting that when Doctor Who Confidential was on back in the day, I never missed one of those.
No,
but I haven't been able to even bring myself to watch. I might have watched a part of it Unleashed, and then I've just lost interest. So I haven't watched any of them really.
It's really 50% sort of the production side of it, and then the other side is the preaching. It's the pulpit of the showrunner, and that's where the controversy get coming in every week. Was what are they going to say on the pulpit this week that's going to irritate people?
Maybe that's the Unleashed that I watched, the Davros episode, and that was it.
Oh, well, that was the very first one. That was the very first Unleashed, and it basically went in from there.
And I've talked to, I don't know how many Doctor Who fans I've talked to who actually say they were like you, Dwayne, but they now avoid the Confidential Unleashed.
Yeah.
Because it riles them. And that's a damn shame, because you love Doctor Who. I love to see how it's made. It's fascinating. I mean, it's a great show to be on. Don't we all wish we could be making Doctor Who? I mean, wow, it'd be fantastic. You'd almost do it for free. That's not going to work. That's
the other thing. I mean, there's lots of videos coming out. There was one today as well from other YouTubers, talking about, is it old and decrepit, and has it had its day? And it's like, how can you argue it's had its day when it's 60 years old? If it's not working, you're just doing it wrong. That's my argument.
Yeah, and you can't. He picked the wrong focus. I personally think. I think he should have gone darker. Stranger Things.
Yeah, go for the horror.
Yeah,
you should have done the Hinchcliffe. Go target it to the older teenager, which is where the kids have. That's where my niece and nephew, who love Matt Smith as little kids, are now. They're looking for the adult show.
Yes, you always want to feel stretched, and you know that. I mean, you've mentioned the preaching from the pulpit, so I'm going to just mention everybody tonight at 7 p.m. in Britain. Me and Rachel, the Queen of the Woke, it's our pilot show. That was the week that was woke, and we do mention DEI, we do mention the preaching from the pulpit, we do mention various sins, and it's spicy and it's nice and short. And on Tuesday we've got another pilot show, which is Spin Sphere. So do look out for those, because we're delving into politics. I'll be shot down in flames. I'm trying to get as many trolls as possible. No, just move into those areas. Maybe it's because the Doctor Who brand's dying. You never know. But yes, that's where we're going next. So audience appreciation figures came out when I was ill. And as you know, every stream has gone on about, why were they hidden? I think we know why. They were embarrassed by it. And you've got the evidence there. Love and Monsters got 76. God. And actually, you get people saying how amazing the audience figures are. But I have to say, when you do any basic maths, that line graph tells you some things, doesn't it? It tells you that Doctor Who doesn't stand out to the audience. It's average. It just tells you that Doctor Who's, it was just part of the diet that day. I'm not going to diss it or anything. I'm just saying Doctor Who wasn't special. That's what it's saying there. What was special was Wallace and Gromit. Now people can say, "Oh, it hadn't been on TV for ages. You're missing the point, and it's a movie and blah." I thought Wallace and Gromit's plot was very Robots of Death. I mean, to be honest, it was very Doctor Who. Gavin and Stacey.
And
Go on.
Call the midwife jumps out to me because it's men don't watch that. It's women watch that. So you got half the audience there, and it's still more than Doctor Who.
Yeah, by quite a way, by 1.7 million. So people.
I agree. I think Doctor Who has lost half its audience because of the politics and the things that they've injected into it, and it's just alienating certain people. And yeah, if they just took it out and got back to a decent story, I think it would do a lot better. I mean, they were still getting 7s with Peter Capaldi.
Yeah. So it is a weird one. And Anthony Parkinson, you make me laugh there. Brendan has more new launches than Elon Musk. Let's hope my rocket doesn't blow up today. Like, yes, because that there was a misfire. But it's New Year, and I'm still doing the Doctor Who, of course I am. But I just want to diversify. I'm enjoying being retired. I'm enjoying this. I sound like bloody Mrs. Thatcher now. But basically, yeah, a politics show, talking TV. There's a whole range there. In fact, just so you can see Anthony Parkinson, and I am going crazy, totally crazy. That's the full mix at the moment of the last week. If you can see there, so we've got State of Decay review was last week. This week on Sunday will be live, and it'll be massive. Oh my God, massive! That's all I'm going to say to you. 6 p.m. on Sunday, live, massive. The panelists, the lot. There's our talking TV, and there's the that was the week that was woke, and you'll see that tonight if you tune in. So yep, I'm trying to just make sure you've got a nice range of different things there, rather than just Doctor Who, and a bit of Doctor Who. I mean, Sirens of Audio, you dabble with various things, don't you?
Yes.
Yeah,
we do.
You need it sometimes, don't you? Sometimes you go, get sick of talking about the same thing. Okay, then. Let's. Did you see this
Doctor Who? I'm one track mind.
Well, I am very Doctor Who, but I do like my politics, and I do like talking TV, and I suppose I shouldn't just repeat. And the woke thing is interesting. So, did you see this? James Bond is canon in Doctor Who now, according to Stephen Moffat. I don't know if he'd been on the drink again, because it seems to me I'm seeing so many leaked things about what he said before. So it seems to me people are writing Doctor Who now to have these lovely, I think they call them Easter eggs, but I sometimes think, can you just focus on, is it an interesting story? So he talked about Sylvia Trench, who was in Dr. No, James Bond, and he confirmed this Sylvia Trench is intended to be the same chic stunner as from Dr. No. And so he likes to be cheeky. I have no problem with that. In Joy to the World, Moffat gives her a surprising new spin. When the Doctor comes back to Sylvia during the climax, he takes a look at the love letter she carries and scoffs, "You are better off without him." Talks about the sentence structure. Then she says it's her girlfriend. And so he says, she's now a queer icon. So we've gone for that. And, James Bond is now canon. I mean, is this just small fry stuff, lads? Is this... Because I do think, like RTD says, I like to get every word right, and I don't like actors to change a word. He's a stickler for his script. Fine, it's his show. But then Stephen Moffat is also very clever with his scripts. Now, doing that dabbling that the characters from James Bond, is that just a nice joke, do you find? Or do you think, stop it, make the show better, just make it shine. Stop the silly Easter eggs everywhere. Where do you stand on this, Dwayne?
I don't mind little references like that. I don't really know the character. I'm not a huge Bond fan. I've seen the movie, but I don't know the character. So it didn't really mean anything to me. But I don't know. As a Bond fan, may have thought differently. I don't know. If it's done well, I don't mind name drops here and there.
It's just, is it the start, Dan, of us, like when we had San Diego Comic-Con, we were wondering whether that joint panel with Star Trek meant something. I'm not going to, since we've had fan fiction War Chief Master, fans are now in charge and doing whatever they want. The next big thing is, Doctor Who meets the Enterprise. We'll mention that. Or, in one shot, we'll just have, I don't want all these different universes joined together. And to be honest, it might be an innocent Easter egg. It's also extremely unnecessary. Focus on not having the Christmas star at the end, twaddle.
Yeah, the in-jokes and things like that, they don't land. And I mean, decades ago, Moffat said, no one likes watching boy geniuses. Well, the more I've seen of Moffat in promote and RTD together in the promotions, I've found it really hard to separate the art from the artist, or the story from the writers. And they're so smug. They're smug in all the Unleashed. Like, just the way they're sitting there and carrying on about, and they've got total creative control between the two of them on everything. And it's like, guys, this feels smug. It feels arrogant. I can't connect with characters. Joy to the World was meh. It was so meh.
It wasn't a joy to the world to me, I have to say. It was just, but I don't want to get fired up by every single thing that goes on, because I think that just means you just need to go and play. But he thinks it's important enough as a kind of in an interview line to say, do you know what? When I was writing the script, I thought, I'll get Sylvia Trench in because I always liked her in Dr. No. Now, the next point, as I think it was JWC Reviews picked up on there, I hope it was that person, I'm trying to get my memory right now, was, why have we gone down the gay road again? I mean, as you know my sexuality, but I also see people's faces. On every show they watch, every advert, they're going, oh, of course they're gay. Oh, of course. And you can see them. And I don't like to see that reaction, because suddenly you're going, people are getting peed off with this now, because they're going, well, of course, the character can't just be this. The character can't be just this. I remember when I was hiding myself away that we were told it might be 1 in 10's gay. And I kept thinking, really? In this class? I was thinking, no, I'm the only one, quite clearly. And you kept thinking 1 in 10 was overrating. And now we have nearly every TV show has a gay character, lesbian character, trans character. You're going, get real. And I'm gay.
Yeah, but it's because, and it stands out like dog's balls, because it doesn't drive anything important to the story. It's just there. It's a throwaway tick box. There's no character development there, and it eats up screen time. And like, there was just all these unnecessary characters in Joy to the World. I mean, they made a big thing about Joy, and yet she was barely in the story, and the focus was all on the other girl, which I actually found more appealing to watch at one stage. It was like they, halfway through the story production, they decided, actually, there's more interesting things here that I'd rather play with than off in the Time Museum.
Yeah.
Time Hotel, sorry.
Yeah. And again, that was missed. I have no problem with that as a concept, but I think it was a missed opportunity, because instead, sorry, I'm pressing wrong buttons again. I'm a very bad person. When he actually did also talk about the Anita character, Steph De Worley or Wally playing Anita in Joy to the World had 10 lines in the first draft of the script. Originally, the Doctor travelled the world for a year, but it was deemed too expensive. Stephen kept putting in more lines for Anita as he and Russell loved her. And eventually, the Doctor spent the year with Anita playing games and doing some caretaking. Again, you see, what's driving the script? What, we like that character, so we'll make more of her. But is it Doctor Who? She's a great character. Stephen Moffat, do a series on her. Make a new series. Female lead, girl power, go for it, mate. And I liked her, But the point is, it wasn't driving the Doctor Who plot. It was distracting us from the Doctor Who plot. And what they've just admitted here is she was such a great character. And as you said, Dan, where's Joy? Joy starts to get sidelined because she stood out a mile because she was a nice, ordinary character, not one talking to flies, not one being stupid about the door that we all know is in a hotel room and we know why it's there. I just think that is a terrible admission to say the script went off-piste just because we liked an actress.
But remember when they were promoting it, they were saying, "Oh, you're going to be in tears at the end, and you're going to be crying, and all this kind of stuff." I'm thinking, I didn't feel anything towards Joy. I mean, in some ways, I was kind of like, "Oh my gosh, yeah, whatever. You kind of deserve it." I mean, why this entity needs to, have a suitcase chained to someone's wrist to go around attacking people to ignite a star just makes no sense to me. It's like, yeah, if you could do that, why? Yeah, the whole premise just was, the more you thought about it, the worse it got.
I tend to get
it's an interesting admission there for their motivations of doing anything. They don't seem to be interested in the audience and whether a story is going to work for the audience. They're interested in what works for them and what makes them happy. So we love the character, so we're going to just do this. We're not going to work out whether the audience is going to love the character. I would have thought that as a writer, that's what you're going to do, but no, obviously not.
Yeah, I mean,
it sounds like they're writing on the run with the characters, with the actors, and it's like they're just making it up. Like when I say, of course, they're making it up as they write it, but you kind of have this sense that you at least have a fully formed idea before you hit production. But it doesn't feel like this based on these comments.
It's a good spot from both of you because I haven't got it with me, but yeah, I remember doing one show when I've got all the RTD quotes, and one of them is he said he saw some of the rushes of Ncuti as the Doctor and then changed his script then. So basically, it's a bit like what you're saying there, Dan, that basically they seem to be doing this almost as it's filmed to a degree and adapting. Now, in that case, then let's get the Ncuti Doctor right then, in season 2. But to me,
RTD saw the rushes of Ncuti and his Dalek melted. We'll leave it at that, eh?
Very, very good spot from 2 hours ago.
You soggy snow cone.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. I mean, I'm always fascinated. You know, when you've read about Terence Dicks and Barry Letts having their little meetings about the Blinovitch limitation effect and how they try and make things work in Day of the Daleks and various other things, and they really took it seriously, and I was really pleased about that. And then you get this stuff where RTD and Stephen have said, "Oh, isn't she good? Give her more scenes." But I thought you were doing a time hotel. And yes, it might have been too expensive to have the Doctor traveling the world for you. I still don't know why he would be doing that. What was he going to be doing? Backpacking? I mean, the plot is he
could have visited the 14th Doctor, had a cup of tea with him.
Have you seen one of those memes, Dwayne, where it shows you in the time hotel? He's in his dressing gown, the 15th Doctor, with his tray, going, and he was going back to the TARDIS. And then he's looking behind him, and there's the David Tennant Doctor in a dressing gown. And he's saying, "Can't you help me?" And he's going off into another room. And of course, yeah, exactly. Just pop into David Tennant's TARDIS, because the David Tennant TARDIS was used with Rose, because he said it in the giggle, didn't he? He said, "Oh, we've gone on a trip." But these are our top writers earning $1 million or so. These are top-notch people. And that's why they don't like us, because we actually, as Doctor Who fans, actually know what should be going on regarding the consistency of Sutek or something, and they hate us to point it out. We are the boy in the Emperor's New Clothes. That's what they just don't like us to say. This is naked. This is all wrong. That's what they hate.
What makes it frustrating is that these guys are not guys who don't have a record. They've got an outstanding record of brilliant writing.
Yeah.
So, but they seem to think that means they can just write any old twaddle and we'll just lap it up. The thought of RTD coming and writing stuff made us want to lap it up. But you just can't put anything in front of us and we'll just go, oh, yes, RTD, yes, we'll just take whatever you give us. It just doesn't work that way.
No, and
Yeah.
and I remember, and look, it's a good point for me to ask you, Dwayne, because you did give us a teaser saying we haven't heard your view of Joy to the World. But when I did the 2 Joy to the World reviews, one with the detox panel and one with my review panel, there were people in the thread and there were people on my show whose relatives have either been very ill during lockdown or died during lockdown. And they just found this fickle, flippant way of putting it into the script was insensitive and almost needed a trigger warning itself. If you're going to go down that trigger warning road for 70 shows, Christmas Day, everyone sat down just wanting easy TV. And suddenly people got upset by that episode. Now, I didn't get upset in that way, but I didn't have a relative die during lockdown.
It's interesting you bring that up because my review of Joy to the World's coming out at 6 o'clock tonight in the UK on the Sirens of Audio. But here's the thing. People may have got offended with that. But I actually empathized with that because I did have my mother was dying at the time. And it was very difficult to spend time with her because we're always, I mean, it wasn't as bad as the UK where you couldn't see them at all, but we could only see them one at a time, 10 minutes at a time. So, you know, my family was around and it was very frustrating to be able to spend that time with her while she was dying. And she did die during that time. So I really empathized with Joy and I did feel very emotionally connected because of my personal experience. I didn't find it offensive in the slightest. And that's what I was connecting about. I was seeing people, you know, debating whether Moffat was, you know, having a go at lockdowns and things like that. But for me, it was Joy just talking about how hard it was for her during lockdown. And I went, yes, it was. It was very hard. I could really empathize with that. So yeah, that was my experience of that particular part.
No, and that's a fair point. The thing is, we all have to be authentic. If that's how it made you feel, that's how it made you feel, isn't it? That's exactly it. I'm pleased it didn't make you. I mean, I'm not naming them on our on my panel, but they did talk to me. Please don't mention this, and they did upset them. So I know we're all different, but I think it's just that you wanted an escape. I agree that it may not have necessarily been political, Dwayne. It may have been Stephen Moffat doing that universal connection that it was a hard time for people, a very hard time. And for some people, it was extremely difficult. And he was tapping into that a little bit, wasn't he, really? Just that separation.
A little bit, but I think he was also wanting to have a go at, you know, Johnson and having that party and, you know, he wanted to have a dig at that too. So it was kind of leading into that. I kind of ignored that and just focused on what I was empathizing with, you know, rather than I wasn't. Yeah, because I'm past being outraged with Doctor Who now. I just, I'm not bothered wasting energy on being outraged. It's going to do what it's going to do.
What did you think? What did you think of the other big point me and Dan were talking about as well on our detox review was the euthanizing of the mother, because she actually, I mean, the mother was dying in the story Joy to the World, but she then, when she becomes a star, a big fat star, she takes her early, doesn't she? With no choice, no consent, just takes her. And I thought,
why couldn't she be a skinny star?
I know. I just wondered, she's going to be a big giant, white giant or yellow giant or whatever they call them. But I
think by that stage the story had got a bit convoluted for me, and I've only watched it once. I haven't gone back and watched it again. And my basic feeling about it was I felt it was the best Shooty episode that I'd seen at that point. I saw like he toned it down a bit. He wasn't going all over the place, which really kind of irritates me with his Doctor. He was down a little bit more in his mood, and I saw kind of glimpses of the Doctor. I still don't enjoy him as the Doctor, but I was getting more out of it than I had for any of his other episodes. So as a one-off thing with me watching it, just let it wash over me. I felt okay. I didn't feel cranky by the end of it, which I have done with a lot of his episodes in the past. I felt fine. So in some ways I enjoyed it. The concepts were good. I think the only character that really irritated me was that Trev. I couldn't stand him. I thought he was as boring as anything. He's supposed to be a well-known actor. That's another thing too. Your big name actors, why do they get to just be put in there and we're supposed to go, oh wow, it's that actor that we love in that show. Fantastic. He was a boring character. I thought it was rubbish. I'd never seen him before.
But again, you and I'm going to go back to it. In the War Games, you talked about that fat line being taken out, and I talked about how they are PC in one way, but non. The other thing with Joy to the World is he patronizes Trev. You're not very bright. I mean, honestly, he was an unattractive Doctor to me because he was smug. I don't like the dressing gown nonsense and jokes about the TARDIS being a toilet and all the rest. I just thought this was stupid. Get on with the story. There was a few political points that you can take or take away, but there were. I think it took us about 11 or 12 minutes before we had 3 deaths. But then we went on this Magician's Apprentice thing where, he was a caretaker.
I must say I was pleased that Trev was one of them. One of those deaths.
Were you happy that he uses his sonic screwdriver to help sweep the stairs and it's a bit Harry Potter and it was all like doing magic?
Well, like I said, it's a Christmas episode. So, these things happen in Christmas episodes. So you kind of excuse them a little bit for the kind of special it is. I didn't mind that sequence with Anita, but it was very soapy. So you're right. Like there was nothing much that happened. He could have gone off and done something during that 12 months other than just stick around and work in a hotel.
If you're going to have a bootstrap paradox, how about you have a 5-minute bootstrap paradox instead of a whole bloody year?
Yeah. But the other thing I was going to say, and this is, I was just picking up on what Dwayne said then about, it was a Christmas episode, so it fits that. Those 2 peaks on Christmas Day in Britain had no Christmas element to them at all. And this is the other thing.
Really? I haven't seen either of them, so
Wallace and Gromit
wasn't aware of that.
Wallace and Gromit is just a damn good story with these zombie robot gnomes. It's very Robots of Death done by Wallace and Gromit. In other words, Wallace and Gromit was doing Doctor Who better than Doctor Who. And then the Gavin and Stacey, whether you watch it or not, was the culmination of their story. It wasn't saying, oh, it's a Christmas episode like sometimes Only Fools and Horses did. No. It's basically the 2 massive peaks that day had nothing to do with Christmas. And there I say, stop Moffat, RTD. Because it's Christmas, we don't have to have a light, frothy, inconsequential nonsense episode. But if you want to give one more shout out for your Sirens of Audio, so when is it? It's tonight, your review.
Tonight at 6 o'clock, we're reviewing all of December's Big Finish Doctor Who's that were released. There was 8 of them. So we're reviewing all of those. And we're also reviewing the War Games, Joy to the World, and Doctor Who at the Proms. We also watch that.
Oh God,
so very busy.
You're really going for it. Well, just to give my own shout out now then. So there you go. Tonight at 7 p.m. UK time. We won't be clashing with Sirens of Audio, different time zones. That was the week that was woke. We've got 2 talking television there. And on Sunday, 6 p.m., we've got a mega panel and discussion. And of course, look out for us on Tuesday, where I'm going to risk my life going into the politics sphere. My degree's politics. I'm mad on politics. And I just thought I will launch my new show around the presidential inauguration. So we'll be discussing Trump and we'll be discussing the consequences of that for the world, good and bad. What do we reckon? So that's that. Lads, it's been a fantastic return for the detox. Thanks for making it so easy. Have I detoxed everyone? I don't think so.
Yeah. No, well, I'm fine. I'm just high on Classic Who. There you go.
Yeah.
And Big Finish. Anyone who wants real good Doctor Who stories, go and check out Big Finish. There's lots of free ones out there. That's if you're really craving how Doctor Who used to be, you can still find good stories there.
There you go. Well, thanks, Dan. I know it's your. I feel as I'm Zebedee in Magic Roundabout. It's time for bed now for Australia. It's time for bed. But thanks a lot, and hopefully we'll all keep healthy, and we'll talk again very soon. Thanks to the thread, you've been very alive, and it's been great to see you. Goodbye, everybody. Look out for tonight. Sirens of Audio in Australia, and watch out for me and Rachel tonight. Goodbye, everyone.
See you around.
Give us a like and subscribe. Bye.